Utah Mammoth fans, Tusks up, and welcome into your Utah Mammoth Daily update. So let's do a temperature check in the room here. Let's see where we are in, I guess, a rebuild. Can you really call it a rebuild? Because the Arizona Coyotes were never competitive. Sorry to all the Coyotes fans out there, but you never really were. So let's dive into this question. Where are the Mammoth in their rebuild? If you've been wondering how close this team is to shifting from rebuilding to contending, let's dive into it a little bit here. First off, let's acknowledge the foundations that Bill Armstrong laid when the franchise relocated. Relocated, moved, sprouted up, whatever term you want to use there. The rebuild began not just through acquiring high picks like Logan Goalie, Dylan Guenther, Tijikin, Caleb Desnoyers, the list goes on and on, Daniil Boot, Dmitry Simashev, Cole Bedoin, list goes on and on and on. Maverick Lamoureux. But also through layering on veterans and depth. Here's the benchmark. Look at teams like Florida. Every team is going to look at Florida. Back-to-back Cup champs. That's kind of the new day blueprint of a team. Colorado is still always a Cup contender, even though they continuously fall short in the playoffs thanks to goaltending. Tampa Bay and Edmonton. You want to talk about goaltending? No, Edmonton. They all took about 5-ish to 10 years to go from complete rebuild to Cup contender. And guess what? The Mammoth's timeline is looking pretty similar. Armstrong has been candid. He doesn't expect Cooley or Guenther to transform this team overnight. Contender level status, maybe when they hit ages 25 to 27. For now, though, playoffs is the target. That's realistic. And as we all know, and as I like to say, once the Stanley Cup playoffs start, who knows what's going to happen. So, the key, continued progression, not plateauing. Not just from the big names, but from second-round picks, draft depth, free agent signings, player development that's often non-linear. Getting to the playoffs is one thing. Winning in postseason hockey is another beast entirely. That's the next big hurdle for this budding franchise. So bottom line, the rebuild isn't over. We're not at the end of it yet. But the darkest days are behind us. At the bottom of the Central Division, at the bottom of the NHL. Luckily for us here in Utah, we haven't had to experience what the Jazz are going through right now. So if the Mammoth can get in and grow from there, that playoff window isn't only going to be opening, it won't even be there. It'll be wide open. It'll be basically like a door. So speaking of building, how's the team addressing gaps at center? Well, let's talk Mason McTavish. So there's serious buzz about Mason McTavish and whether the Mammoth should jump in. The restricted free agency is not going well for either the Ducks or McTavish's camp. Is he the missing piece at second center? Let's break it down. McTavish checks a lot of boxes. He's a big-bodied center, obviously, plays physical, can score, and adds firepower to the power play, which, the Mammoth don't really need a ton of help, but you never want to turn down help when it comes to special teams. Right now, the Mammoth center depth is Cooley, Hayton, McBain, Stenlid. You can throw in Keller in there as well. They play him at center a lot. McTavish could push Hayton down to third while freeing flexibility for McBain to slide to wing, which is more, I guess, natural for McBain to play there. At 23, McTavish obviously is in the right age range with Utah's core. He posted 22 goals and 52 points over 76 games last season, so he would slot right into that second or third center with the opportunity to improve up to contending with Logan Cooley for the top center. Ramping up as the year progressed, so he got better as the year went along, which is what you want to see from young players. Putting McTavish between creators like Schmaltz, Keller, Peterka, that's tantalizing. I love it. He'd anchor the middle, bolster scoring, and make the power play tougher to defend. Cost could be steep. The Ducks reportedly might want a hefty package, and GM Bill Armstrong tends to avoid those risky offer sheets. But if a trade came at the right price, and it might, depending on how long this stretches out, it could supercharge the Mammoth's rebuild immediately. So the question is, would McTavish fit? He clearly does. The real issue is when and at what cost, and whether the organization is willing to make the leap. Now, beyond center, what about net? There's some rumors going around here that are kind of juicy. So, Edmonton goalie Stuart Skinner, there's some speculation that he's not long in Edmonton. Obviously, Oiler fans have pointed to goaltending as the main reason why they could not beat the Panthers. Real puck heads know the real reason is that outside of McDavid and Draisaitl, there's not much of a threat that they have behind that, and that's the real reason. But you really don't want to address it that way. Goaltending's easy. You can point to that and go, yeah, it's goalies. So let's talk about, could the Mammoth be in the market for a goalie upgrade? And by upgrade, I mean backup upgrade, because Karel Vejmelka is the starter. Word is Edmonton Stuart Skinner could be a target, so let's unpack that. Here's the setup. Skinner's shown flashes of brilliance. Obviously, he's gotten the Oilers almost to the President's Cup. He's gotten the Oilers #1 seed. But he's been inconsistent when the pressure has peaked, which is not necessarily a knock, right? A lot of great goalies just couldn't perform when it came to the Stanley Cup finals. With his free agency looming next year, some analysts are predicting a potential bold trade to Utah. Why Utah? Simple. The Mammoth need more reliable goaltending depth. Last year, Veggie stepped up and earned a 5-year contract extension with a .904 save percentage and a strong goal saves against average. So backup options were shaky, and we all know that here in Utah. Connor Ingram is fighting his demons, and Jackson Stauber didn't really make a strong case that he could be that reliable backup, and Mason Hrabel is a few years away from hitting the NHL. So Skinner could provide both experience and upside. With cap space and a need for insurance behind Veggie, Utah makes sense, particularly if their young forwards continue to develop and make noise. But again, this is purely speculative at the moment. If Armstrong were to pull the trigger, it'd signal a readiness to push deeper into the playoffs. But would it disrupt development or elevate the team's ceiling? Like, would the elevation match the price that he pays for it? That's the ever-present balancing act. Right now, the trade that's being floated is just a 1-for-1 hockey trade, Connor Ingram for Stuart Skinner. That would be interesting. And while it would be very sad to see Connor Ingram go, it would be interesting to see Stuart Skinner in the black and white. So that is something to keep my eyeballs on for you guys. And now let's move it on to some feel-good stories with JJ Peterka and Julian Lutz and their connection. It's more than just stat lines, and they happen to be on the same team. So sometimes the best storylines are the human ones. That's exactly what we see in the connection between Julian Lutz and JJ Peterka. So picture this. It's late June, and Mammoth prospect Julian Lutz is in Spain enjoying dinner with his longtime friend JJ Peterka. Peterka steps away for a call, then comes back grinning with one unforgettable word. Brother, we're on the same team. That's how the trade to Utah became reality. These two share deep roots in Germany. Both came up through the Red Bull Munich pipeline, played together for the German national team, and will again probably at the Olympics, and were both NHL draft steals. Peterka in 2020, Lutz in 2022. Now, they get to bring that chemistry to Utah. For Lutz, who put up 13 points in 47 games in the AHL, this is validation. He knows the system, he knows the work ethic, and most importantly, he knows the guy skating on the other wing. That bond can fast-track his growth if he earns NHL minutes, which is not easy in the pipeline that Utah has, but competition breeds strength. Peterka, meanwhile, signed that 5-year, $38.5 million deal after that breakout season with Buffalo, where he scored 27 goals and 68 points. Beyond skill, he brings leadership and familiarity, giving Lutz both a role model and a teammate who speaks his language, both literally and figuratively. This is what makes sports special. Two German kids dreaming of the NHL, now chasing those dreams together in Utah and Arizona. That's a story that pretty much writes itself, and it's something that I just wanted to talk about and highlight. A cool thing that kind of came from that trade that kind of got washed away with everything else that was going on with the trade. So there it is. Rebuilding progress, McTavish chatter, goalie rumors, and now a German connection that could shape the Mammoth's future. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you all tomorrow.